All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. And salutation and much love to Yakim out there pushing out his word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Ash from Great Millstone, Tampa, back with another live lesson. Lord's, not live, but, Lord's will is edifying. And, I was going to go into this movie I seen, but let me start with this. This is Isaiah 54:17. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. Yeah, because there's nothing you can say that comes up against the Most High. All right. There's nothing. Good publicity is bad publicity is all publicities, in other words. But you can't gainsay or resist the word of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. It says, this is the heritage of the servants of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, and the righteousness is of me, say Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. All right, so the point is, there's no weapon that be formed against me. Okay, so this is the mindset of this video. All right, we got to be in that mindset that no matter what we go through, the Lord is always there for us if we truly believe and have faith and trust in Him and are sincere. The Lord's going to be there for us, pertaining unto these last days. The Lord's going to be there for us. All right, so I wanted to bring in this movie that I watched earlier this week. It's called The King of Heaven. It's from 2005, or The Kingdom of Heaven. I'm just going to show the trailer. But first and foremost, let me get this because, Esau Edom. This is copyright.gov about Fair Use Act. All right. Fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright protected works in certain circumstances. Section 107 of the Copyright Act provides the statutory framework for determining whether something is a fair use and identifies certain types of users such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, which this is what it is. It is reporting, teaching, and news, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. And this is what it is, fair use. This is just the trailer. Esau, just got to give a disclaimer. But here we go. So, pick out the meat from the bones of this trailer, but you got to watch the full movie, honestly, because it's not only going to show you, because this is during the time of when Jake was ruling Europe. And the Crusaders were fighting against the Muslims, which if you don't know, you need to learn about that history. This is not what the whole video is about that history, but it was Jake's pretty much. So the main character is really a Jake. Okay, if you know what the time frame is, it was in, you'll understand what's going on. But nonetheless, it's a very spiritual movie. It teaches about valor, being brave, being bold. All right, what we need for these last days, trusting Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And you'll see just in this little trailer, little clip.
Be without fear in the face of your enemies. Safe.
All right, so right there in that scene they showed, he said, "Oh, well, it's different scenes again." So it's different scenes there. This is a trailer, but in that scene where they're being encamped around about, there's a bunch of horses running. You'll see this is when they were standing up for Jerusalem. Or no, it was another city, but it was in Israel, and they were standing up to defend the city, and and then and you watch the movie, which I recommend brothers do. They were fighting for Jerusalem. Okay, in other words, let me do this. Do not disturb. Go ahead, though.
Be without fear in the face of your enemies.
Right there. That's a beautiful scene because only a few men stood up to defend the city. Just a few men. And look at all the people that were coming to them and surrounding them. It's a beautiful movie. I recommend brothers watch it.
Safeguard the helpless, even if it leads to your death.
Safeguard the helpless. That's scripture. Let me just let this finish though. Salakia.
Is your oath. Rise a knight. Rise a knight.
What becomes of us?
The world will decide.
world always decides.
A new world. A better world than has ever been seen. There.
And again, if you watch this movie, well, oh, they're Edomites. Well, if you don't know the history, then you don't watch the movie because you're going to be lost as hell. You need to know the history to know the mysteries, as the apostles of Great Millstone have always said. So this is just a movie, okay? This is Hollywood, but just watch the movie. Just watch the movie.
You are not what you were born, but what you have it in yourself to be.
Because again, this was the Christian Crusades, which were Jakes that was ruling in Europe, fighting against the Muslims that was set up, through the Catholic Church. So you really got to know the history to really understand this movie. But just watch the movie and you just know that these are Israelites fighting against these Muslims, okay? Because that's what it was. The Christian Crusades were trying to take back the Jerusalem from the Muslims, and then they took it back. Then the Muslims fought back, and so on and so forth. It was a battle back and forth, okay? Even though they weren't calling themselves Israelites at that time, okay? This was during the Dark Ages. So do your research.
A kingdom of conscience. There, you are not what you were born, but what you have it in yourself to be. A kingdom of conscience. Peace instead of war. Love instead of hate. That is what lies at the end of crusade.
And again, the final battle is for Jerusalem. Okay? Jerusalem. And this is another thing, because here goes the Muslim guys that were coming up against them. But this is very important. You need to see how ancient battles were fought. Okay? They show this very well in this movie. And I'm gonna bring out examples of how it would take days and days, all right, to get just watch the movie. Back then, like the Isaiah chapter 9 says, that with confusion and noise and I'm sorry, Isaiah. Let's get that Isaiah. Believe it's 9 and 5. For every battle of the warriors with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Watch the movie, you're going to see that exemplified. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Talking about the end of days, the World War III. But ancient wars were fought like what you will see in this movie. It'll show it a little bit in this trailer. But don't worry, we're going to get them scriptures. Ridley Scott, another great movie that he directed was Gladiator. You see that? This is how these wars used to be fought, man. I'm telling you, watch this movie.
Desires is here and here.
He said what God desires here and here. He pointed at his mind and he pointed at his heart. Going to the Hebrew word lab, which means which in English is translated to heart, but it actually means your mind. So another spiritual point.
That is what I do.
Defend Jerusalem. That is your oath. The king has no need of a perfect knight.
I offer you the world.
You are a princess, and I am no lord. You have my love and my answer.
I go to pray. For what? For the strength.
Yeah, this is how ancient battles used to go down right there. Thousands of men trying to take down a wall. Because remember, you go into 70 AD. It wasn't just 70 AD. This was years and years of trying to take down different cities. You have to understand what was going on. This is bro. They just watch the movie and do your homework. These wars were gruesome, deadly. Every day they would fight. They would protect. Just to wake up in the morning to do it again for years at a time. In this case, it was a couple days. You know, even if, well, we know it started, the 70 AD really started around 68 AD and ended around 74, roughly, you know, rough number, you know. This shit wasn't easy, man. Like, you could just do a drone strikes. This was people dying out there fighting every day. You got cut up, you got wounded, you had to get patched up and go out the next morning. This shit is serious. I'm telling you, watch this movie. It's a beautiful movie.
I go to pray. For what? I go to pray. For what? For the strength to endure what is to come.
Woo. Did you hear what he said? He said we got to go pray for what is to come. And we're going to bring out scriptures. I just want to get this, but pay attention closely to what that dude just said about what's to come.
I go to pray. For what? For the strength to endure what is to come.
He said I go to pray for the things that are coming. In other words, I pray to endure the things that are to come. This is what you need to be praying for. You need to pray for the things to come. That's going to be the title of the video. Let me write that down. Pray for the things to come. Let's run it back. He said, pray to endure the things to come. Let's see. Let's go back.
I go to pray. For what? For the strength to endure what is to come.
Pray for strength to endure what's to come. Slaki, I had to write that down because that's the title of the video.
Trying to sleep and the sun is right.
2005, 18 years ago. Cool. So now let's get into the rest of the scriptures here. All right. And again, look, watch that movie. Please do. Because you're going to get a good perspective of what I'm getting at here. I watched it 2 nights ago. This is Isaiah 60:12. Says, through the Most High we shall do valiantly, for He it is that shall tread down our enemies. And this is one of the points of the movie, that they trusted it in the Lord. They would say, oh, are we going to battle? Hey, if it's God's will, we're going to win. That's in the scriptures. You know, we're going to get to that. But this is what we have to be in the mindset of. Yeah, we're not physically going to beat people up or war at this point in time. But we're fighting spiritual wars, man. How's it go? Evil in high places, roughly paraphrasing. Let's see if I can get it real quick. High places, New Testament. Yep, I believe this is it. Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, which this is what we used to go through back in them ancient times. We would have to physically fight and spiritually as well, but physically we was getting down. Now we're not lining up to go to battle with heathens. So let's be real. Let's put this in perspective. It says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high place. We're battling Satan in the flesh. Okay, the people that are being inspired and promoted by Satan, that's who we're dealing with, and we don't see them. We don't even know who they are. You couldn't recognize them if they were at Walmart standing next to you. But we understand that we fight these dark powers, the darkness of this world, the rulers of against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Okay, so we have to have that same mindset that they had in that movie, or that most importantly, our forefathers had. Okay, it says, where was I? Against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And that's why you read on and you got to take on the whole army, because we're going to war. We are at war, man. So let's go back to one of our forefathers, Joshua. Okay, which is his name is Yahushai, and it was for a reason, because he was the one to lead those that survived the wilderness. He led them into the promised land. There's a precept on that, but I can't think of it right now. It might be this one. It says, and Joshua said unto them, fear not. Joshua 10:25. And Joshua, which is Yahushai. Matter of fact, there's a precept in the Apocrypha. That's what it is. So like it. Let me do this before I read Joshua 10. Let me do this. Jesus. But because they translate the name differently. They translate Joshua into Jesus, but then they tell you Jesus means Yeshua. That's ridiculous, man. So wouldn't the proper translation of Jesus, truly, it should be Joshua. Instead of people worshiping Jesus, they should say Joshua, because that's the actual pronunciation from the Hebrew into the modern terms. And I'm gonna prove it in the Apocrypha. Let's see here. It's in Ecclesiastes, if I'm not mistaken. Here it is, right here. Ecclesiasticus 46:1. Jesus, the son of Navi, which is, in other words, Joshua, the son of Nun, was valiant in the wars and was the successor of Moses. Who was the successor of Moses? It was Joshua. So let's go back to Joshua. So if you don't believe that Joshua is translated into Jesus, then you're a fucking idiot, because right here it says Jesus, the son of Nave, which we know his name was not Jesus, and his father's name was not Nave, or it was Nun, if I'm not mistaken. Nun. Brothers can put it in the comment board, the precepts. Let me go back to that Joshua though. Well, actually, it tells. So, like, let me go back to this, because it tells you why he was named that. Man, where was it? I read it the other day. Okay, here it is. Yeah, same verse. Sirach 46:1. Yahushai, the son of Nun, was valiant in the wars and was the successor of Moses in prophecies, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of the Most High. So who delivered the elect after Moses died? It was Joshua, which was the Ephraimite. Oh no, maybe he was Judah. No, he wasn't. He was the Ephraimite, because the black only people like to say that everybody got to be black. Well, hey, Joshua came from the stock of Ephraim. He maybe at the point in time maybe he was dark skinned, or obviously he was, but you get the point on what I'm saying. Joshua was an Ephraimite. That's a fact. It says, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of the Most High. That's why. That's another lesson anyway. It says, in taking vengeance of the enemies that rose up against him, that he sent, that he might set Israel in their inheritance. So who really brought Israel into their inheritance? It wasn't Moses. Moses didn't even get to touch the land. He had to see it from the distance. The Lord said, you're not going to get to see it. But, everything is for a reason at the end of the day. The Lord set up one man. Next, the Lord set up another man. Then he set up judges that were from tribe of Dan, tribe of this, tribe of that. So it's really not pertinent to focus on, I'm a Ephraimite, or I'm a Naphthalite, I'm a Danite. Yeah, which that, if you were calling yourself a Danite, inside joke. But, This is about what the Lord's will is at the end of the day. Because the Lord came from Judah. Judah is the head tribe, you know. But the Lord has used all tribes to do certain things, you know. Judah's the head tribe. You know, that's clearly, written in the scriptures. You can go back to Genesis and read about that. What is it? Genesis 47, if I'm not mistaken, that thy brother shall praise thee concerning Judah. Okay. Go back to that. It says, and taking vengeance of the enemies that rose up against them, that he might set Israel in their inheritance, which they did go into the land of Israel through the hand of Joshua, which his name was Yahushai. All right, Joshua is his name. I'm not saying he was Yahushai, but his name was Yahushai. Because what? Well, let me keep going. It says, how great glory got he when he did lift up his hands and stretched out his sword against the cities. So he was a savior. He was a savior. You know, you had Caleb under him, you know, because I didn't see nothing about Caleb until you read down. It started with Joshua, or Jesus, the son of Nave, you know, and because again, you got to realize this was translated. The Apocrypha was translated, and you're not going to get the Hebrew Apocrypha. You can get it if you got that money for it, or if you do your deep, diligent research into it. But that was the point on that, you know, that these men were valiant to serve the Lord. Okay. Now let's get some more. Let's get some more to see other valiant men standing for the Lord. I think it's in First Maccabees. This is one of the greatest Maccabees, the books of Maccabees, man. If you ain't read them, you better read them. But let me go to First Maccabees 4. I think it's like 28 next year there. I mean, you got to read the whole chapter, really, but let me just get straight to the point. Verse 35, it says, now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judah's soldiers, which is Judas Maccabeus, or Judas Maccabee, it says, in the manliness of Judah's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly. And that's the spirit you got to be in. You got to be in that spirit. No weapon is formed against me. That's what we started with in Isaiah 54. You have to be in that spirit. We ready to go. Shit. We ready to go because we standing up for Yahweh Shai, making ourselves valiant. All right, let's get that word valiant because it say valiantly, but let's see valiant. It's like a valiant. Adjective. Perfect. Brave. Courageous. Intrepid in danger. So, meaning you're not scared. All right, let's look up intrepid. You find that intrepid, fearless. We ain't got to go more. This is fearless in danger, from Anglo-French valiant. And again, it says early 14th century, late 12th century in surnames. This is when Jake was ruling. You know, in the late 1300s, early 1400s, they started going down. Obviously, Esau started taking over the papacy and so on and so forth. But a lot of these terms come from Israelites ruling in Europe. Okay, it says where was that? Stalwart, brave, be worthy, originally be strong. You know, we ain't got to read more. You know what intrepid means. Fearless, in other words. So where were we? Verse 35. It says, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia, which you got to read. That's why you got to know the history. I'm not going to go into it. And gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army great than it was, he purposed to come against Judea These fucking devils are trying to come up against, all right, the Israelites at the end of the day. And that's why I started off with that movie, Kingdom of Heaven, because you'll get a similar, even though it was the Muslims in that movie, but the Edomites were doing this prior to that, and they doing it to this day. It says, verse 36, then say Judas and his brethren, behold, our enemies are discomforted. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into the Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profane, yeah, because you got to read the whole story. The temple, they ransacked this, they defiled it. This is what motivated our people to fight the Maccabean revolt. All right, the Jewish revolt, or the Jews revolt. You know, you got to read into this history. There's many terms for it, but this motivated those sincere, devout men to fight for the law, for the words of the Most High, and for what they knew was right. So let's keep going, though. It says in verse 38, and when they saw the sanctuary desolate. Oh, wait, let me read 37. I think I skipped that. It says, upon this, all the hosts assembled together and went up into Mount Zion. So, like, yeah, I did read that. Verse 38, and when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned and the gates burned up. So, you again, watch this movie. Watch this movie. Again, this is during the time of the Greeks. You know, this is about 500, maybe probably more than that. Almost 700 years in the future, when the Maccabees were on the scene, to this movie that I showed prior. You know, about 700 years difference, or more or less, you know, give or take. Either way, this is the spirit of those that want to defend the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, which obviously did. You know, the Christian Crusaders weren't talking about what we talking about today, but this is an example of how to be. Stand strong for the Lord. Fight for strive for the Lord unto death, and the Lord shall fight for thee. That's Sirach chapter 4. But let's keep reading. I'll start at 38 again. It says, and when they saw the sanctuary desolate and the altar profaned and the gates burned up and the shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest's chambers pulled down. So the temple was destroyed. You had shit growing in there. Nobody was maintaining it. Just profane, nasty abominations in there, like what we see today and walking around America. It says, verse 39, they rent their clothes. They were like, oh, remember, you got to remember who the Maccabees were and who were their forefathers. You know what I'm saying? You know, people like to go straight to John Hyrcanus, but John Hyrcanus was not the first Maccabee. You got to go back and see how these men fought for this. Going on, it says, and fell, verse 40, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces and blew an alarm with the trumpets and cried toward heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he had Judas Maccabeus. He was like, hey, look, we gonna fight these motherfuckers until we get rid of them. All right, let's keep on. 42. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bear out the defiled stones in an uncertain place. And as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane. Hey, Mata. It's like you're talking to my dog. He know Hebrew too. Verse 45. They thought it was best to pull it down, lest it should be as a reproach to them. It's like it. Because, verse 45, because the heathen had defiled it, wherefore they pulled it down and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Yeah, I'm not gonna keep going on that because you got to read it. You got to read it. You got to read these stories, and this is our history, our people's history, man. And which Maccabees really go. The word translates to hammer, if I'm not mistaken, or something along those lines. It was hammer, if I'm not mistaken. Brother could put it up in the comment board if he finds it. Well, I'm pretty sure it's something along the lines of hammer, something like that. But let's go to the second Maccabees now. Second Maccabees 8. And again, you can start at the top, but I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I don't want to make this too long. We'll start at 16. So Maccabeus called his men together unto the number of 6,000. So here it is. You're going back to the point of when we started the Kingdom of Heaven, the movie. They were very outnumbered. Okay, watch the movie. It says unto the number of 6,000. So there was 6,000 that Maccabeus put together, which was, I believe, it was Judas. Yep, right here, verse 1. Judas. Again, you need to read the whole story, but this is just get straight to the point. It says, so Maccabeus called his men together unto the number of 6,000 and exhorted them not to be stricken with terror of the enemy, for to fear the great multitude of the heathen who came wrongly against them, but to fight manfully. So he was like, man, don't worry about these motherfuckers coming up against us. Fight manfully. And let's see. I think it says the number of how many came up against them. Here it is. 20,000. No fewer than 20,000. Verse 9. All right. No fewer than 20,000. And it was only 6,000. It was 6,000 versus 20,000. That's how the Lord do. It's verse 17. I'll just keep going. And to set before their eyes the injury that they had unjustly done to the holy place. So Judas Maccabeus is showing them, look, don't worry about how many people coming against us. Look at what they have done. And let's keep going. It says, unjustly done to the holy place in the cruel handling of the city, whereof they made a mockery, and also the taking away of the government of their forefathers. So they took away our culture. They took away the way of life that we lived. So Judas Maccabeus, he's hyping them up. He said, hey, look, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. This is what happened. Yo, this was the man right here, man. He was in the spirit. It says, verse 18, for they said he, trust in, this is one of my favorite scriptures. For they said he, trust in their weapons and boldness, but our confidence is in the Almighty, who at a beck can cast down both them that come up against us and also the world. The Lord can take down anybody that comes against us and the whole world, if he please. And you can keep reading down on that beautiful chapter. Again, read the whole books of the Maccabees, honestly. But let's get a couple more scriptures, just to back on this, man, to get in that spirit, man, that the Lord is with us. Okay? Deuteronomy chapter 1, and I believe it's 30. Yeah. It says, the Lord, or Yahweh Shem our power, which goeth before you, he shall fight for you, according to all that he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. So the Lord did all these things to deliver us from Egypt. And he's still going to fight for us just the same way. It will be greater in these last days when we get delivered from the second Egypt. You just got to trust in him. The Lord's going to fight for us. That's who fights our battles. We're not worried about these losers, people coming up against us. You want to come up against us, the Lord going to put the hands on you, man. Deuteronomy 3 and 22. Ye shall not fear them, for Yahweh your power, he shall fight for you. Plain and simple. All right, so let's go into a couple more accounts in Second Maccabees, chapter 15. And I think I started 7. Again, this is going back. You gotta read it. You gotta read it. You know the history. Do your research. But I'm just gonna get some points here, to prove that we need to be in that spirit, man, of trusting you. How about Shema Shai? Not worrying about if we outnumber. If the Lord is with us. I just read Deuteronomy two verses in Deuteronomy that proves that. The Second Maccabees, and this is what our forefathers believed. They knew that the Lord was gonna fight for them. Second Maccabees, 15, and I'll start at 6 and 6. So Nicanor, however you want to pronounce it, in exceeding pride and haughtiness, determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Judas and them that were with him. But Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. Yeah, so he didn't care what the Edomites were doing. He didn't care what the enemy was doing. He had sure confidence in the Lord that would help him. Maybe you lost that battle. Maybe you got banned, in modern terms, what we're going to go through. Maybe you get caught up in the jail. Maybe you get beat down, and tortured. You need to have confidence that the Lord will help you. If not, you through. Verse 8, wherefore he exhorted his people, the ones that were with him ready to fight. Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven. And you can read through the book of Maccabees, and there was times where angels came down dressed as gold. They had gold apparel, gold armor, whatever, and they came down to help. So that's why he's saying, remember the help which in former times, and prior to the Maccabees as well, going all the way back to Genesis. But it says, in which the help which in former times they, but to, right here, verse 8, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid, which is help, means help, or like a first aid kit is to make you better, make you whole, okay, or the bandages, all that, first aid kit, Where was I? The victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty. So the Lord brings us our victories, man. The Lord is going to bring us the aid. He's going to send his son down. It says, verse 9, and so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, which is the Old Testament, in the book of the law, the book of the prophets. So the books of Moses and the Jeremiah, Isaiah, so on and so forth. This is and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful. So he went into the scriptures. He told them, look, this is what happened for this. We got through that battle. We got through this battle. The Lord came through us then. He came through us that time. So he gonna come through us now. It says, verse 10, and when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths. Thus he armed every. So he was showing, look, these motherfuckers are liars. Which was who? Which is during the time of the Greeks. All right, it was their Edomites. So he's exposing the devil. All right, for who they were, so to say. All right, which is falsehood of the heathen. Because they made a lot of oaths that they didn't hold up to. Because it says the breach of the oaths. Because Alexander the Great made a lot of oaths with Israel because he respected. He understood. Even a priest came unto him and told him, but his generals didn't give a shit, and their children, the sons that came after them, didn't give a shit either. But verse 11, thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears. Yeah, so he didn't arm them with a fucking shield, not so much as a shield, like, oh, this is what gonna get us the victory of this war, a shield and a spear. No. Let's keep going. It says, verse 11, as with comfortable and good words, and beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them. Which he goes into a vision that he had, but pretty, that was the point on that chapter. he had stirred up their minds. The ones that were ready, they knew what was coming, man. They knew, oh, like, shit, we outnumbered. They coming with vigor. They coming with, they coming with violence. They trying to kill us. They trying to, they were like, shit. When you go into in the history, the Maccabean revolts. Okay, this is a very beautiful topic right here. So I'll end off on this, again, straight to the point. 2 Maccabees chapter 10. Going back a couple of chapters. Another battle. 2 Maccabees 10 and verse 16. Then they that were with Maccabeus made supplication and besought the Most High that he would be their helper. And so they ran with violence upon the strong. Oh, yeah, you really got to read this from the beginning. But, jeez. Yeah, I just keep it simple. It says, and besought the Most High that he would be their helper. And so they ran with violence upon the strongholds of the Idumeans. Who was that? Edom, the self-proclaimed white man. Verse 17, and assaulting them strongly, they won the holds and kept off all that fought upon the wall. And watch this movie. All that fought upon the wall. Go to that. I already clicked it off, but go to that movie, The Kingdom of Heaven. You're going to see what they're talking about. Defending the wall. This shit was not easy. Yo, this is not drone strikes. This is not modern day tactics. You had to send bodies and bodies and bodies and bodies to die to get over a wall. And they were defending this wall. This is our forefathers defending the wall because they trusted in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. It said, in verse 17 again, and insulting them strongly, they won the holds and kept off all that fought upon the wall and slew all that fell into their hands and killed no fewer than 20,000. And if you go up again, I believe it mentions how many it was. Let's see here. But again, damn, I can't remember. No, maybe that was the last chapter. But that we read. But we were always outnumbered, man. The Lord has always been with Israel when those that come together and believe and lead, and they stand up for the Lord will be there, and you'll be outnumbered, but that's okay. You be behind. Again, you got to understand how the ancient cities were. And again, this movie, The Kingdom of Heaven, that it'll show you, even though this is during the Maccabees, the Greek Empire, this is 500 BC roughly. The movie Kingdom of Heaven is like 1000 AD. It doesn't give you a time frame, but it's around the time of the Christian Crusades, which let's look that up. Christian Crusades. Christian Crusades. Let's see what it says. When it lasted. It said 1095 to 1291. Well, who was ruling Europe during that time? The Israelites. Say verse 7, 2 Maccabees 10 to 17. And assaulting them strongly, they won the holds and kept off all that fought upon the wall and slew all that fell into their hands and killed no fewer than 20,000. And because certain who were no less than 9,000 were fled together into two very strong castles, having all manner of things convenient to sustain the siege. So that's another thing, the siege. Because when they got siege, you siege a city, you have to fight them every day. And this right here, it said, I forgot how many years. No, not how many years, but it would last either days, weeks, months, or years. Pursuing the 70 AD, yeah, the Romans came. They started around 67 AD. They didn't take down Jerusalem until 3 years later, and they didn't take down the last city until 3 or 4 years later after that. So this is a siege. You need to look up what sieges are, and then you're gonna get a good idea from this movie that I started with. Okay, so that was the point, pretty much, man. Believe in Yahweh Shema Shah. He gonna be there for us, man. He's been there before for us, you know. And these are accounts that physically, carnally happen, but now in these last days are gonna spiritually and carnally happen as well, because the Lord gonna be there to deliver us from carnal situations. And we're doing a daily battle spiritually, and the Lord's there for us. So, Lord's word was edifying and exhorting to the whole elect. With that, shalom.